Good evening, short story writers. This is probably the final installment. I think it is 5 actually, or 6, or something like that. I've been talking about this for rather a long time of my career in writing. I said yesterday, somebody approached me and said, "Have you thought of teaching at a university?" And to me, it's one of maybe just 3 jobs that's up there on a pedestal. Another would be scoring music for film, since I write music. That would be pretty awesome to hear my own music in a music trailer. But I'm ahead of myself. Anyway, I did the investigation. As I said, I found out that you don't have to do your master's degree in the same subject that you did your bachelor's degree in. And I did a lot of inquiry and found a fairly good match with the Manchester Metropolitan University, or MMU, to do creative writing. I enrolled, and fees were in their infancy at that time, but it still cost me in the region of £5,000 to go from day one through the 3 years that were required to do this part-time and online. I thought a few sacrifices made there because I was in Korea, so I had to be up at about 2 or 3 a.m. depending on the time of the year in England, because Korea does not observe GMT, BST, and or daylight savings time, whatever you wish to call it. So some days the next day I'd be quite bleary-eyed. I'd have to try to go to sleep at 8 p.m. just so that I'd be bright-eyed and bushy-tailed to take place in the class discussions. And part of this course was writing a novel. So I dusted off one of my long short stories and applying a lot of the principles that I'd learned in how to structure and how to plot using the hero's journey, which is in, I think it's Jarvis's The Hero with 1,000 Faces or something like that. I crafted this novel and it wasn't bad. I got a merit, which apparently is better than just a pass. I don't know how good it is. I don't know whether it's equivalent to a first, a second, or a third, but I'm happy with it. I assume it's somewhere in the region of a second. I was told by one of my fellow students, "Oh, that's not bad." So, okay. And certainly it wasn't the rest of my classwork which shone and got me that merit, because it wasn't. I tended to be the one with the problem with authority, who questioned everything. Some of the course material that we had to study, I, as a story writer, regarded some of the books we had to read as mere writing. I mean, it was fluid writing, so it was telling an account, but it was like some of the books we had to read, it was like outpouring of somebody. It was more like journal keeping than anything else. There was no... If I'd been an editor, I would have sent it back and say, "Look, I want a beginning, I want an end, and I want a middle." Not necessarily in that order, because Pulp Fiction proves that you don't necessarily have to do it, as long as we can follow what's going on. But there's no... You've got like 5 different stories here, and you're trying to tell me it's a novel. It's not. It's a lot of words with some different accounts. There are not even any stories here. You're just simply detailing the supposed psychological state of the author as you see it, and I'm afraid it's not holding water. You don't have, or you do not demonstrate, a good grasp of cause and effect, human psychology, and how they would respond to some stimuluses. Or you could possibly get away with this if you do a little bit of setting up first, so that we can see, oh yeah, they behave this way in that situation. This is an analogous situation, so I can see why they're behaving like this. None of that was done. A lot of it was incredibly lazy writing, and how it got published is beyond me. I'm not a big fan of stories where stuff happens simply to move the plot along in the direction which is convenient for the author. And there's too much of that. And guess what? This is why I go on about literary fiction as a genre. It was all literary. No genre novels there, or genre books, with the exception of The Road. We did The Road. Now that was marvelous. There was Doris Lessing's The Fifth Child, which could have been much, much better, but she head hopped all over the place. Some sloppy plot points, and a few others. One by Nabokov. He's got this character, but he behaves differently in all the stories. It's almost like in one, he's Gru from Despicable Me, and then he becomes this fawning idiot, and then he becomes this really butch sort of personality. I can't even remember what the book was called, but it was by Nabokov. I didn't enjoy it. I would have preferred if he'd stuck to one persona rather than pretending that. I mean, basically they've taken 3 long stories and put them together in a book and said, it's a novel. But it wasn't. It was not. It wasn't even an epic spanning a family. Okay, so let's get back on point. So, my writing career, I then, with the aid of this, was able to get a place at a university as an assistant professor, and they not just teaching English as a second language or a foreign language, but also for a couple of terms, I was either teaching my fellow professors as volunteers and outside in the city of Dijon, but I also taught it at the university for a semester to 20 students, and I only had about 3 drop out, which was pretty good because it was an elective class. I mean, they didn't have to be there. It was kind of a bit like going to night school. So I was very pleased with that. And they were very pleased with it as well. The standard of work at the end for their final exam was very high. And yeah, it was good. My fellow professors enjoyed it as well. All right, 7:49, under the 8 minutes. Like, subscribe, all that other stuff. See you tomorrow with a prompt.